Through the Midwest, trapping many. Overnight, tornadoes turned deadly in the heartland. At least 29 reported in just 24 hours.
We have several people trapped in that area.
Search and rescue efforts underway in that path of destruction. Rivers rising. Thousands of people bracing for major flooding. And now the severe weather threat moving into the Northeast this morning as millions get set to hit the road for the holiday weekend.
Also this morning, the man known as the American Taliban set to be released from prison after serving 17 years amid fears he might still support violent extremism.
White House standoff. President Trump storms out of a meeting with top Democrats, vowing not to work with them until they stop investigating him. Speaker Pelosi accuses him of a cover-up. Are Democrats now one step closer to beginning impeachment hearings?
ABC News exclusive. Daredevil Nick Wallenda speaking out for the first time since video was released of that devastating fall that seriously injured his sister. And his big announcement this morning, only on GMA.
We finally got a piece of the pie. The legendary Live from the 70s performance taking over primetime.
It's live.
We're behind the scenes with the all-star cast, bringing those age-old roles to life. All in the family. And the Jeffersons, plus that throwback surprise appearance in that deluxe apartment in the sky.
Miss Jefferson.
Now that's a wrap.
Live in Times Square, this is Good Morning America.
And Good Morning America. Hope you're well this Thursday morning.
Yes, and what a night last night. See those two classics come back to life. Two American classic sitcoms, All in the Family and The Jeffersons. We have much more behind the scenes coming up in a few moments.
Yeah, Jennifer Hudson with that new theme song. Well, the old one, but she just sang it so well. Wow. We have a lot to get to, though, this morning. Starting with those massive tornadoes devastating parts of the Midwest. You're looking at Jefferson City, Missouri, getting a direct hit last night. Officials reporting catastrophic damage there. Right now, searches and trapped for missing underway. So much devastation.
That's right. That twister just one of dozens that touched down overnight. Want to go to Rob Marciano in Golden City, Missouri. Good morning, Rob.
Good morning, Georgia. Sad day here in Golden City. 3 people losing their lives in last night's storms, which are obviously still going on. This is one of the properties that was pretty much destroyed. We're standing on top of a brick wall that was collapsed. This garage collapsing onto this car. You can see our second camera. This porch is still standing, but the roof completely ripped off, all the windows blown out. This is unlivable at the moment. This is a storm cell that started in Oklahoma. It skimmed across the Kansas line, and one of several tornadoes then that ripped through Missouri. There's a tornado right there.
This morning, search and rescue underway in Missouri's capital after a monster tornado ripped through Jefferson City, causing heavy damage and injuring 20 people.
The tornado took the roof off. They had a female that's bleeding.
Trees snapped in half, power lines stretched across a street, buildings pulled into pieces.
We have several people trapped in that area.
Only the bones of this home still standing.
Once we sat down, I thought to myself to go upstairs and get our mattress. And as I rounded the corner, I could see the trees across the street were completely flat.
Overnight sirens blaring across the heartland.
Look at this right here. Holy smokes.
At least 29 reported tornadoes in Oklahoma and Missouri. Look at this massive multi-vortex tornado reaching for the ground in Golden City. That system turning deadly, killing at least 3 people. And this one touching down just 40 miles south at Carl Junction.
That is crazy.
Leaving behind a path of destruction. Trees and power lines down, roofs torn off, debris from mangled buildings littering the ground.
Tornado warnings going off here in Tulsa. People scrambling to get out of the parking lot of this park.
A second day of tornadoes in the state, this one striking just east of Oklahoma City. This all part of the same system that ravaged the region with severe flooding and more than 90 reported tornadoes since Monday.
This tornado narrowly missing Joplin just a few miles down the road on the anniversary date of that horrific EF5 back in 2011. So history nearly repeating itself. But this is a big blow for Southwest Missouri, made only more difficult the recovery today because of these ongoing storms.
Wow, and our hearts go out to all of those people affected. Rob, thank you so much. And unfortunately, that severe weather now taking aim at the Northeast, some major cities in its path, and that could cause some serious travel headaches at the very least for the holiday weekend. And Ginger is tracking all of that dangerous weather. Good morning, Ginger.
Good morning to you, Amy. Much of Pennsylvania, parts of Delaware, even into Virginia, and yes, New Jersey and New York all need to pay attention. So stay with me here. Let's begin with looking at Crescent, Oklahoma. Remember, we had all that rain. We were just talking about the flash flooding. This comes with this type of storm. That's a house being pulled away on the banks of the Cimarron River. We still have flood warnings in place for much of the Midwest and Southeast. You can see there, Wichita down to Tulsa, Springfield, and eventually they will drain into Arkansas. So watch for more of that flooding. But you mentioned the storms this afternoon and tonight. So many people traveling for the holiday weekend today. Look at the timing here. The cold front pops the storms just west of Philadelphia at 5:30. If you're traveling I-95 down through Baltimore or Wilmington, you've got problems this afternoon and evening. Damaging wind in excess of 70 miles per hour possible with some of these storms. You could see hail and you could even see tornadoes, especially where that low is kind of circulating. So Harrisburg, Wilkes-Barre, we're going to be watching them all, Michael.
Yep, got to be careful when you're out there traveling, Ginger. All right, thank you so much. And now to the man dubbed the American Taliban, set to be freed as early as this morning. John Walker Lindh joined the Taliban just before 9/11 and was captured during a battle with the U.S. forces a few months later. ABC's Whit Johnson joined us from outside the federal prison in Terre Haute, Indiana, which Lindh has called home for the past 17 years. Good morning, Whit.
Michael, good morning to you. The now 38-year-old John Walker Lindh is leaving prison, much like he went in nearly 2 decades ago, under a cloud of controversy. Sources expressing concern to ABC News that Lindh remains radicalized with extremist beliefs. This morning, the man known as the American Taliban, John Walker Lindh, set to walk out of an Indiana prison, released on good behavior, serving 17 of his 20-year sentence.
You're an American citizen, right? Yeah. Well, right now, you are a prisoner. All right.
His post-9/11 capture making international headlines in 2001. Gaunt and filthy, Lindh was pulled from a fortress basement in Afghanistan. In video taken by Afghan intelligence obtained by ABC News, CIA officer Mike Spann seen here interrogating Lindh.
You know the people that you're here watching Lindh are terrorists?
Was killed an hour later in a close-quarters gun battle with militants. Now Spann's daughter calling Lindh's release a slap in the face.
He is getting released early because of his good behavior in prison. And for my family, terrorism does not equal good behavior.
And Spann's father urging President Trump to intervene.
Don't turn him loose if there's reports out here that he's not being the model prisoner that y'all say he is.
The family citing 2 government reports that found Lindh continued to advocate for global jihad and made pro-ISIS statements while behind bars. Sources also telling ABC News that Lindh has even preached in prison, quoting a prominent jihadi figure. Lindh was never charged in Spann's death. He'd converted to Islam as a California teenager, then leaving for the Middle East in the late 90s, even meeting Osama bin Laden at an al-Qaeda training camp, ultimately pleading guilty to giving armed support to the Taliban. Lindh will be on supervised release for 3 years with tough restrictions, including limited internet access, communicating only in English, and no associating with any known extremists. He's expected to move to Northern Virginia, just outside of D.C. George?
We're going to see if they can police that. Okay, Whit, thanks very much. We're going to get the latest now on rising tension in the Middle East and what could be a dramatic increase in U.S. forces to the region. The Pentagon expected to present a plan to the White House today for sending up to 10,000 more troops as a counter to Iran. Our chief global affairs anchor, Martha Raddatz, tracking these developments from Washington. Good morning, Martha.
Good morning, George. This request could result in thousands more U.S. forces in the Mideast, and with them an almost certain increase in tensions with Iran, which are already red hot. U.S. officials tell ABC News that the Pentagon will present the request for more forces at the White House today. The request was made by the military's Central Command, responsible for the region. One official saying the request could result in 5,000 to 10,000 more troops, which would be used for defensive purposes as a deterrent to Iran. The president on Monday calling Iran very hostile and the #1 provocateur of terror.
We have no indication that anything's happened or will happen, but if it does, it will be met, obviously, with great force. We'll have no choice.
Already, the U.S. has sent a carrier strike group and B-52 bombers to the region and evacuated non-emergency personnel from diplomatic facilities in Iraq because of what the administration said were significant threats from Iran or its proxies. Officials say images show Iranian operatives had loaded cruise missiles onto small boats. The U.S. has also pointed the finger at Iran for the recent sabotage of 4 oil tankers off the coast of the UAE. But after a briefing Tuesday by national security officials, some members of Congress voiced skepticism.
This is blind escalation with the hope that the Iranians will come to the table in the end. It doesn't seem like well thought out policies.
President Trump has said he does not want war with Iran, but Iran may have a hard time believing that, George, if there is a significant increase in troop numbers.
And Martha, if the president does approve this troop increase, what kind of forces are we talking about? Where might they go?
An important question, and that is unclear. If the increase is in naval forces, that may mean an additional carrier or ships or weapons systems on board, or it could be Patriot missile batteries and the troops needed to operate those systems. What we do know is that the Pentagon has made a point of saying that this increase would be for defensive measures. George?
And likely to know more today. Martha Raddatz, thanks very much. Amy?
George, to the White House now, and the latest angry clash between President Trump and congressional Democrats. The president storming out of a planned meeting with Democratic leaders after just 3 minutes, saying he will not work on issues like infrastructure until they call off their investigations. Our senior White House correspondent, Cecilia Vega, has all of those details. Good morning, Cecilia.
Hey, Amy, good morning to you. You know, the Democrats are not going to call off these investigations, and this is now a standoff. Any bipartisan priorities this morning are on hold. So take a listen to this. This is where things stand. One Republican senator went public venting his frustration, saying he hopes the president and the Democrats stop acting like 8-year-olds fighting in the back of a minivan. This morning, Washington is at a standstill.
You can go down the investigation track, and you can go down the investment track, or the track of let's get things done for the American people.
Any hopes of bipartisan compromise on issues like infrastructure or prescription drug prices gone after President Trump vowed not to work with Democrats until they end the investigations into his presidency.
Let them play their games. We're going to go down one track at a time.
The Rose Garden outburst followed a heated closed-door meeting between the president and top Democrats, a meeting cut short by President Trump because he was furious about an accusation made by House Speaker Nancy Pelosi just before her trip to the White House.
We believe that the president of the United States is engaged in a cover-up.
Sources tell ABC News the president spent all of 3 minutes talking to Democrats. He refused to sit down or shake hands, and he left before any Democrats spoke.
Instead of walking in happily into a meeting, I walk in to look at people that had just said that I was doing a cover-up. I don't do cover-ups.
From Democrats, outrage.
To watch what happened in the White House would make your jaw drop.
I pray for the President of the United States, and I pray for the United States of America.
So this was really a remarkable scene here. The president was so angry that he called this hastily arranged event out there in the Rose Garden. Aides were still bringing out gear while the press was being called in. So this really felt like it was called at the last minute in some ways. Sources tell us that aides tried to stop the president from going out there to vent before the cameras, George. They tried. They were not successful.
They were not. Okay, Cecilia, let's get the view from Capitol Hill right now. Our senior congressional correspondent, Mary Bruce, is there. And Mary, Speaker Pelosi seemed to think this was going to happen before it happened over the issue of infrastructure.
Yeah, George, look, Pelosi knows how to play this game. She's a master strategist, and this language was intentional. In fact, we are told that accusing the president of a cover-up was on the Democratic talking points that was handed out yesterday morning. Look, Pelosi is likely trying to ramp up her attacks on the president to please those members who are pushing for impeachment, but she also knows that the president is watching, and she knows that this kind of language is likely to get under his skin. This fight, this president's blow-up, is politically convenient for Democrats. They're trying to shift the conversation here and accuse the president of refusing to fulfill his promise to rebuild the nation's crumbling infrastructure. But, George, they're only going to be able to keep that spotlight off this impeachment fight for so long.
Right, because the speaker had come straight from a meeting with House Democrats where she was tamping down that pressure for impeachment and calls from some in her own caucus not to cooperate on the issues the president wants, like free trade, unless he cooperates on investigations.
Yeah, George, the Speaker is urging her members here to stay the course, but it's hard to see how they're going to get anything done here now up on the Hill. Democrats say they're going to continue to try and fulfill their agenda. There are certain issues where they're going to have to try and work with the president, like on the budget and raising the debt limit. And when it comes to the issue of impeachment, Democrats are pointing to the fact that they've now had success in the courts. Just yesterday, a judge rejected the president's effort to try and block his longtime lender Deutsche Bank from complying with a subpoena. George, this is exactly why Democrats say they need to stay the course. They feel that they have a better chance by following the facts.
Yeah, second court case this week against the president. Okay, Mary Bruce, thanks very much. Michael?
All right, thank you, George. Now to new legal trouble for Michael Avenatti. The high-profile attorney is now being charged with stealing hundreds of thousands of dollars from his most famous client, Stormy Daniels. Our chief national affairs correspondent, Tom Yamas, is here with more. Good morning, Tom.
Michael, good morning to you. At one point, Michael Avenatti was debating running for president, but now his career appears to be in shambles, accused of serious crimes, and his next move is definitely not to the White House. It may be to the big house.
I'm pulling an Avenatti, and when you do that, you actually have a factual basis and evidence to back up your statements.
This morning, the indictments are mounting against celebrity attorney Michael Avenatti, now facing up to 300 years in prison if convicted. Federal prosecutors bringing new charges, accusing him of stealing from the client that put him on the map, porn star Stormy Daniels.
My attorney and I are committed to making sure that everyone finds out the truth.
Avenatti representing Daniels when she tried to terminate her hush money agreement over an alleged affair with President Trump. The notoriety led to a book deal for Daniels, a memoir titled Full Disclosure.
Yes, there's a lot of publicity, but I didn't do it for that because this isn't what I want to be known for.
Federal prosecutors allege Avenatti sent Daniels' literary agent a fraudulent and unauthorized letter instructing the book advance be sent to an account controlled by him. When Avenatti received the funds, the indictment states he used it to make a lease payment for a Ferrari, to pay for hotels, airfare, meals, even dry cleaning, all for himself. And when Daniels asked about the money, Avenatti allegedly lied to her, stealing $300,000 of her own money and only giving her half back.
Now, Avenatti did not want to comment on camera, but he did tweet out the following: I intend fighting these bogus, legally baseless allegations and will plead not guilty to all charges. I look forward to the trial where I can begin to clear my name. And guys, those other charges he mentioned include allegations he tried to extort Nike and also defraud other clients.
What a twist for him.
Yeah.
Wow.
Man, okay.
Facing 300 years, too.
300 years.
All right, Tom. Thank you,
Tom.
Turning now to Jeopardy, James the Champ strikes again. He's keeping his streak alive, edging closer, so close to that $2 million in total winnings, which he could surpass tonight. James still trailing Jeopardy all-star Ken Jennings, who raked in about $2.5 million. The 34-year-old professional gambler getting really comfortable on the iconic game show last night. He placed a bet for 2 dimes. And then he reminded host Alex Trebek, that's gambling terms for 2,000. Trebek responds, I love this, with a cool, I know. I have to tell you, we're all watching it. I'm so excited about tonight. Woohoo!
Big night tonight. We will see what happens then. Coming up here in ABC News exclusive, Daredevil Nick Wallenda is speaking out for the first time since the video was released of that devastating fall that seriously injured his sister. He's standing by with a live announcement. Ginger?
And I'm sorry, I didn't know who's coming over here, but we've got the Select Cities now, brought to you by Audible.
Una mesa para dos personas.
So again, using para, you're talking about something that is for someone.
Quisiera una mesa para la cena.
Very good. Could listening to Audible inspire you to start something new? Download Audible and listen for a change.
Stay with Storm Watch 7 throughout the day today. We'll be on weather alert this afternoon and this evening. We've got that threat of seeing some strong, potentially severe storms. Those storms could bring some damaging winds to the area, some hail, even the possibility of an isolated tornado. And look at those temperatures, 87 degrees at 4 p.m., dropping off to the lower 80s by 7, 8 p.m. This weekend, it gets hot again. We could see a chance of a storm coming through late Sunday and again Monday afternoon.
This is Jerry. Jerry has a membership to this gym, but he's not using it. And he has subscriptions to a music service he doesn't listen to and 5 streaming video services he doesn't watch. This is Jerry learning that he's still paying for this stuff he's not using.